Hi, Ryan from Blue Hill Wildlife Nurseries. Today we're going to look at growing trees in tree tubes and probably a lot of other things. But today I want to do this tree was planted 2 years ago. This is actually stuck in a miracle tube. I prefer Tree Pros original. They're slitted. It's a flat sheet, cheaper on the shipping, and you form it into a tube. Use the removable zip ties, and you can get in there and clean off any lateral limbs, any debris that are going to be in your tree tube, and it does a better job than the miracle tube to me. These are nice because they come fully formed and there's 2 zip ties on them, and you can just put it in and throw the tree in the ground. And I did that with this tree, but I like being able to get in there. Your tree tubes are going to, every morning there's condensation that's going to go down this tree tube and kind of almost re-water your tree, which is great. But yet you can't get in there and access the tree, remove lateral limbs, remove debris. This here is an apple tree on standard root stock. I wouldn't recommend growing apple trees on clonal stock in tree tubes, but on standard root stock that are going to get good diameter. This tree here was planted 2 years ago. It's already stiffened up. It's up. It has lateral limbs. It's time to cut the tube off and see what we got. I did see on the back side of this that the voles did go about 3 foot up on the tree tube and chew into the tube, so it'll be interesting. I should also show you that this tree was growing. There's stone. I like to put the tree tube down and put stone. It's already sinking below the tree tube. That at one time was an inch or 2 above the tree tube, but this was all gold. It's all goldenrod in here. A lot of voles. I mean, there's a foot away. There's vole holes there. They're traveling through here. They're gonna eat your tree roots, eat your tree pretty fast. That stone is what is the only reason that tree is still here today, or it would be nothing. While we're at it, you can see here that they traveled up, chewed a hole in, went down. It's surprising what we will find, but there still was plenty of top growth. There was 30 inches of growth on every lateral limb coming out of this tree. So they didn't cut off enough supply of nutrients going to the top of the tree that this is going to be an issue. But let's cut it off. I'll show you what I'll do. I'm going to add this down on my lower lands, so I'm going to add a breathable weed mat. What is this? Stay Green from Lowe's, pretty inexpensive, 200 foot coverage, 4 foot by 50 foot. I cut this to 2 by 2, but it's fiberglass. It's going to last a long time, as long as I need it, because I'm going to cover this with stone and repeat what I've been doing. place the weed mat around. Some more stone. Aluminum window screen. This is 2 foot high. I'm in central Pennsylvania. 2 foot high is adequate for me. If you're in Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, you know, northern New York, where you're gonna get 3-4 foot of snowfall, go with 3 or 4 foot. I'm in central PA. I'm gonna add 2 foot. It's very important that it's aluminum. The voles will chew through plastic. I'm going to flare it out on the bottom so the stone holds it down. And cover it with stone. Growing in fallow fields, this is what works for me. Stone deters the voles and yeah, lets the tree survive. There was no chewing on this tree. It's solid. It's been 2 years in the ground. You know, breast height is probably an inch, inch and a quarter, inch and a half. I'll adjust the camera. This tree could use a little bit of pruning, and this will probably be the last time that I ever touch this tree. You can see there's 2 central leaders there. The furthest ones towards the top, you see, is not what you want. So I would remove this one. I'm going to remove this one. And I have my central leader there that's just a central leader. From right here up about 3 foot. Here, I'm going to look for an outward bud. I'm going to cut it there. Let that outward bud grow and grow, just as I'm going to do with the rest of these. Every outward bud. Because it's going to make, like this one I just cut. I'll cut this back one so you can see a little better. This one I just cut is gonna, this spring is gonna shoot out this way a couple inches and then go upwards. And I'm gonna keep gradually getting away from the central leader of the tree. And I'm gonna prune all these. I'm gonna take away a couple in the middle. I'm looking for every, you know, I'm looking for 18 inches. These bottom 4 or 5 are gonna be the lower limbs of my tree. What forms this next year is going to be the next step up on that central leader, and I'm looking, you know, to form a scaffold of limbs. So these are going to be removed. and I'm up about 5 or 6 foot above the tree tube, what once was. And that's what's left. But it's enough. I don't have a double central leader, which is the most important thing, because you get to that year 4 or 5, you know, they're getting big and they got fruit hanging on them. That if you have a double leader, it tends to split, and you have a tree split down the middle, and you have nothing. This way, this tree's set up for success. I'm never probably going to come back in and prune this tree again in this life. Tree tubes are great. You can see this is an apple tree. I wouldn't grow apple trees on trees that were not on an actual true standard seedling rootstock. You can see this tree's only 2 years old. It's got a decent diameter down there at the bottom. It's plenty sturdy enough to stand here by itself alone now. There's no support. There's nothing like that. I can assure you on these dogleg roots, I bet this tree's 3-4 foot in the ground, where clonal stock could be 6 years old and still is not 3 foot in the ground. These are going down and out. As far as tree tubes and using tubes for trees, I've had great success in chestnut trees. I can show you that over here. Persimmons, seedling persimmons, even grafted persimmons, as long as you make sure that you lift the bottom of the tube, make sure they harden off until fall. Anything on a persimmons tree that doesn't harden off dies back. Tree tubes and persimmons, seedling wise, you know, if you're planting something that's going to be well up out of the tube till that fall, does great. Apple trees, standard rootstock, pear trees, no longer than the first growing season, in my opinion. I've grown them longer than that, and it takes about year 4 till they're sturdy enough up outside the tube. If you grow them for year 1, they're up out of there. I would support it a little bit and fence then. Again, if you saw my video on just fencing a fruit tree when planting it, fencing is a great way to go. I know I use aluminum window screen. I used a weed mat. I used stone. You know, if I didn't have a soil test, I amended the soil to about where I thought it would need to be when I was planting the tree. Never add nitrogen to the tree when you're planting it, or you're just going to kill it. Phosphorus and potassium are very important nutrients. I'm going to add a small fence around this tree of just literally a 1-inch chicken wire, so the bucks don't rub it. I got the stone down here, which I'll show you, so that the voles ain't gonna get at my tree. And I have the aluminum window screen that no rabbits or voles are gonna chew the bottom of my tree, and I'm set up for success. You can hear the neighbor's dogs barking. This property that we're on is actually about, it's 8 acres in total, but it's about 6 acres that I have dedicated towards deer. For me, I plant food plots, plenty of food plots. I have standing corn, I plant clover, I plant chicory, I plant brassicas, anything I can do to attract deer. But I also love trees. Why trees? Trees are almost a time-released, I don't want to say feeder, but yet, in a sense, it's the case. And trees release fruit at different times, whether it's soft mast, hard mast. We can go for a little walk here, and I can show you what I'm talking about. Here's this tree. This is finished. And I should never have to touch this again in my life. Again, aluminum window-screen, stone on top of it. Aluminum window-screen's flared out, so the stone holds it down there. Enough stone that these voles that are digging the holes over here are going to be deterred, and this tree's of age to sustain those. And with that much stone, they're going to go chew on something else and not my apple tree. But let's take a look around. Again, here I'm in central Pennsylvania. Our deer per square mile is between 22 and 24 deer per square mile. This is, like I said, huntable here out back, which I've only hunted this property the last 2 years. But with that amount of deer per square mile on here on an average hunt, you can see, 15 doe and, 2 or 3 buck. The property peaks about November 1st. I've created that way with trees. Like I said, food plots, I can feed them 365 just about, with standing corn in the snow and beans and clover and chicory and brassicas and stuff like that. I can feed deer food plots 365. Trees I can feed about 6-8 months out of the year, and achieve with trees. Like I said, it's almost like time released. You're looking at a chestnut tree here. It's gonna drop the month of October. I like the property to peak around November 1st, and this place does that. I have I have 15 doe and 3 buck that I can see in a sit hunting, but yet on cameras I know that there's 20 doe and 10 buck to 15 buck here in a 24-hour period. And with my deer density on 6 acres, it means I'm attracting most of the deer in the area. But it's nice. You can look around here. This tree is 5. These were grown in tubes. You can see I've done the same thing to this tree a couple years ago. I removed the tube, used a little chicken wire, put the stone on it. I like that there's a lot of, you see all the chestnut burrs hanging there. Even in a small property like this, there's nice deer trails heading down through there. It's exactly what I want, and I plant a lot of food in cover. I'm small property. I need cover, I need food, I need to be able to bed as many deer as I possibly can. Even in this goldenrod, you can see that I ran most of that over there with the tractor to show you this video. But you can see the deer have been bedding in here. Deer have been bedding there. This is a prime time back here. I'm going to do the same thing to that. As I remove this tube, I'm going to cut all those lateral limbs. Double leader going on there. This is going to leave. This is going to get pruned back with the outward bud facing out. Same thing with this limb. Outward bud right about here is going to get pruned so that it's going to grow out this way. And it's going to make a nice tree for me. Again, if it wasn't for that stone around the bottom of that tube, the tree wouldn't be here. Well, looking here, I think this tree was on a video about 2 years ago. I'd stuck a T-bud on this pear, and I had T-budded a vent pear on it. But you can see that was 2 years ago, and you can see it pretty much grew into a central leader, about 6-7 foot high up from top of my head, and put a lot of laterals on this last year. That this tree usually stands probably close to 15 foot in 2 years with a little T-bud on top of some older stock. Still a great way to make a habitat improvement. Plant seedlings, put them in the ground, throw them in tree tubes, watch a few videos on T-buds. Pears are pretty easy to bud as long as cambium's touching cambium. I don't care if you do a chip bud, if you do a bark graft, if you do whatever you want to do. Still a great improvement. Thanks for watching.